Imagine turning on your computer one morning, ready to check emails, finish some work, or maybe just watch a video, and without you realizing it, someone on the other side of the world already has access to your system. They're silently watching what you type, copying your saved passwords, maybe even controlling your machine remotely. And the most unsettling part? Your antivirus software doesn't warn you, your operating system doesn't notice, everything looks perfectly normal. Now here's the surprising part. This isn't some rare Hollywood-style hacking scenario. According to cybersecurity reports from organizations like IBM Security and CrowdStrike, Windows machines are targeted by the overwhelming majority of malware attacks globally. In some years, more than 90% of known malware samples are designed specifically to attack Windows systems. That statistic raises a serious question. Why does Windows, arguably the most widely used operating system in the world, continue to struggle with security issues after decades of development? To understand the answer, we need to step back and look at how Windows became the dominant operating system in the first place. Microsoft launched Windows in the mid-1980s, and over the next several decades it became the standard platform for personal computing. Businesses adopted it, schools used it, government agencies built their infrastructure around it. By the early 2000s, Windows powered the majority of desktop computers worldwide. Today, even with competition from systems like macOS and Linux, Windows still holds roughly 70% of the global desktop market, according to StatCounter. That dominance created an enormous ecosystem. Millions of software applications were built for Windows. Hardware manufacturers designed drivers specifically for it. Enterprises invested billions of dollars building networks that depend on Windows-based infrastructure. But that success also created a massive target. Think about it this way. If you were a cyber criminal trying to infect as many machines as possible, where would you focus your efforts? On a system used by a few million people, or one used by hundreds of millions? From the attacker's perspective, Windows is simply the most profitable target. But popularity alone doesn't explain everything. The deeper reason lies in the architecture of Windows itself and the long history behind it. Windows was originally designed during a very different era of computing. Back in the late 1980s and early 1990s, personal computers were not constantly connected to the internet. Security threats were relatively rare, and most people using computers were either professionals or enthusiasts. The idea that billions of people would one day be connected online 24 hours a day simply wasn't part of the design assumptions. As a result, early versions of Windows prioritized usability and compatibility over strict security controls. Programs often had broad access to system resources. Applications could interact with each other in ways that modern security experts would consider extremely risky. Those design choices made the system flexible and easy to use, but they also created vulnerabilities that would haunt Windows for decades. Microsoft has spent years trying to patch and improve those weaknesses. Features like user account control, Windows Defender, and Secure Boot were introduced to strengthen protection. Windows 10 and Windows 11 include advanced security layers such as virtualization-based security and hardware-backed protections. Yet despite these improvements, the platform still faces persistent security challenges. One of the biggest reasons is something called backward compatibility. Businesses rely heavily on older software systems that were built years, sometimes decades ago. Many of these applications require specific behaviors from Windows in order to function properly. If Microsoft were to completely redesign the operating system with strict modern security rules, a huge amount of legacy software might stop working. For corporations running payroll systems, manufacturing equipment, or hospital infrastructure, that kind of disruption could be catastrophic. So Microsoft walks a delicate line. They need to improve security while still allowing older software to function. That balancing act creates complexity inside the operating system, and complexity is often where security vulnerabilities hide. Another factor is the sheer size of the Windows codebase. Modern operating systems contain tens of millions of lines of code. Each line represents a potential place where a bug could exist. Even a small programming error, something as simple as mishandling memory, can open the door to serious exploits. Security researchers regularly discover vulnerabilities in Windows components, ranging from networking services to graphics drivers. Some of these vulnerabilities are relatively minor, but others allow attackers to gain full administrative control of a machine. In cybersecurity, these are known as privilege escalation exploits. When attackers combine multiple vulnerabilities together, the results can be devastating. One well-known example occurred in 2017 with the WannaCry ransomware attack. That malware exploited a vulnerability in the Windows Server message block protocol. Within hours, it spread across networks worldwide, encrypting files on hundreds of thousands of computers in more than 150 countries. Hospitals in the United Kingdom were forced to cancel surgeries. Manufacturing plants shut down, even transportation systems were affected. The financial damage was estimated in the billions of dollars. And here's the alarming detail. The vulnerability used by WannaCry had already been discovered earlier by intelligence agencies. Once the exploit became public, cybercriminal groups quickly weaponized it. That incident showed just how dangerous a single Windows vulnerability can become when millions of systems share the same underlying architecture. But technical flaws are only part of the story. Human behavior plays a huge role in Windows security problems as well. Many users simply don't update their systems regularly. Others download software from untrusted sources. Some disable security warnings because they find them annoying. Cybersecurity experts often say that the easiest system to hack isn't necessarily the one with the weakest code, it's the one with the least cautious. User. Phishing emails remain one of the most common attack methods. A user receives a message that looks like it came from their bank, clicks a link, downloads a file, and suddenly malware is running on their computer. Windows machines are particularly vulnerable to this kind of attack because they allow users to install almost any software they want. This openness is part of what makes Windows powerful. Developers can create a wide variety of programs without strict approval processes. But that freedom also means malicious software can sometimes slip through. Compare that to ecosystems like Apple's macOS or iOS, where applications often go through stricter verification processes. While those systems are not immune to malware, the controlled environment can reduce certain types of attacks. Another major challenge is the fragmented update landscape. In enterprise environments, many organizations delay Windows updates because they worry about compatibility issues with their internal software. That means some systems remain unpatched for weeks or even months after vulnerabilities are discovered. Cybercriminals know this. Once a new vulnerability is announced, attackers often race to create exploits before organizations can deploy updates across their network. It becomes a high-stakes game of cat and mouse. Even the hardware environment contributes to the complexity. Windows runs on an enormous variety of devices from hundreds of manufacturers. Each system might use different processors, graphics cards, network adapters, and drivers. Every additional driver introduces another layer of code that could contain vulnerabilities. Maintaining security across such a diverse ecosystem is extremely difficult. By contrast, companies that control both hardware and software, like Apple, have a more tightly integrated environment that can simplify certain security protections. But perhaps the most interesting aspect of Windows security is how attackers adapt over time. Cybercrime has evolved into a highly organized industry. Many hacking groups operate like legitimate businesses, with dedicated teams for research, development, and distribution of malware. Some groups specialize in creating zero-day exploits, which are vulnerabilities unknown to the software vendor. Others focus on ransomware operations, where they encrypt victims' data and demand payment for its release. According to cybersecurity firm Chainalysis, ransomware payments reached hundreds of millions of dollars annually in recent years. Windows systems are often the primary targets in these campaigns because they dominate corporate environments. A successful breach of a Windows-based network can provide access to sensitive company data, financial systems, or critical infrastructure. And this brings us to another critical point. Many of the world's most important systems rely on Windows. Banks use it, hospitals use it, energy companies use it. Even government agencies depend heavily on Windows-based networks. That means vulnerabilities in Windows aren't just a technical problem, they can become national security concerns. Governments around the world have increasingly invested in cybersecurity defenses because attacks on critical infrastructure could disrupt entire economies. Despite all of these challenges, it's important to recognize that Microsoft has dramatically improved Windows security over the past 2 decades. Modern versions of Windows include advanced protections such as exploit mitigation technologies, sandboxing, and machine learning-based malware detection through Microsoft Defender. The company also runs one of the largest bug bounty programs in the industry, paying security researchers millions of dollars to discover vulnerabilities before attackers do. This collaborative approach has helped identify thousands of potential weaknesses. At the same time, the cybersecurity landscape continues to evolve. Artificial intelligence is now being used on both sides of the battlefield. Security teams use AI to detect suspicious behavior across massive networks. Attackers use AI to craft more convincing phishing emails and automate malware development. This technological arms race shows no sign of slowing down. So what does the future look like for Windows security? Some experts believe the industry is moving toward a model known as zero trust security. Instead of assuming that devices inside a network are safe, zero trust systems verify every request continuously. Even internal users must authenticate themselves repeatedly. Microsoft has already begun integrating these concepts into enterprise versions of Windows and cloud services like Azure. Hardware-based security features are also becoming more common, including trusted platform modules and virtualization-based protections that isolate sensitive processes from the rest of the system. However, the core challenge remains the same. Windows is an incredibly powerful and flexible platform used by billions of people across countless environments. That flexibility is both its greatest strength and its greatest security challenge. In many ways, the question isn't why Windows has security issues. The more interesting question might be why it continues to function as reliably as it does, despite the enormous complexity surrounding it. When you consider the scale, millions of applications, thousands of hardware configurations, billions of users, and a constantly evolving threat landscape, it's almost remarkable that the system works as smoothly as it does most of the time. Still, the reality is that cybersecurity is not a problem that can ever be completely solved. It's a continuous process of improvement, adaptation, and vigilance. As technology becomes more integrated into every aspect of our lives, the importance of secure systems will only grow. For everyday users, this means taking simple precautions that can dramatically reduce risk, keeping systems updated, avoiding suspicious downloads, enabling security features, and using strong authentication methods can make a huge difference. Because in the end, cybersecurity isn't just the responsibility of software companies or IT departments. It's a shared responsibility between developers, organizations, and individual users. And as long as Windows remains the backbone of global computing, it will continue to sit at the center of that ongoing battle between security and exploitation. So the next time you turn on your computer and everything seems to be running normally, it might be worth remembering just how much invisible work is happening behind the scenes to keep that system secure. Because in the digital world, the most dangerous threats are often the ones you never see. And if you found this deep dive interesting, make sure to subscribe for more videos exploring the hidden forces shaping the technology we use every day.